Imagine this. You're standing at the airport, bags checked, boarding pass in hand, maybe grabbing that last-minute coffee, when suddenly, boom, your entire airline's fleet is grounded.
Yeah, chaos.
Flights canceled, thousands stranded, and just this wave of confusion washes over the terminal. This isn't, hypothetical. It was the reality for tons of travelers on July 21st, 2025.
That Alaska Airlines grounding.
Yep, exactly. When their whole U.S. operation just stopped. So today, we're doing a deep dive into this really complex, increasingly digital world of air travel.
It really is complex.
We're going to unpack three interconnected issues that kind of came together here. The Alaska Airlines IT outage itself, the bigger picture of these escalating threats to aviation's cybersecurity, and critically, what your rights are as a passenger when things like this happen.
That last one's key for listeners, I think.
Definitely. Our mission is to shed some light on the vulnerabilities in the system, explore why flights get disrupted, it's not always simple, and really arm you with the knowledge to navigate it all. So you understand not just what happened, but why it matters and what you can actually do. Okay, so let's jump straight into that Alaska Airlines grounding on July 21st. The headlines were pretty dramatic, a total fleet grounding.
Yeah.
What was the immediate hit for travelers, and what did Alaska Airlines officially say happened?
Well, the impact was pretty significant. All their mainline planes, Horizon Air 2, grounded for about 3 hours.
3 hours, wow.
Yeah, from 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. Pacific, and that caused widespread delays, over 150 cancellations, and the problems, they spilled over into Monday morning.
Which is always a busy time.
Exactly, peak travel, Alaska's official reason. They called it an unexpected failure of a critical piece of multi-redundant hardware.
Okay, hardware. Sounds specific.
Right, from a third party at their data centers, it hit key operational systems. But they were really clear. They stressed safety was never compromised, and importantly, they said it was not a cyber attack.
Okay, so a hardware failure. Seems almost mundane, I guess. But clearly, the consequences were huge.
Absolutely massive.
But what's interesting, right, is even if it was just a hardware glitch this time, this didn't exactly happen in a vacuum for Alaska Airlines, did it? They've had some other tech issues recently.
That's a really important point. While the official cause was hardware, it definitely happened within this broader context of, growing worries about aviation cybersecurity. And you're right, this isn't their first rodeo with tech trouble. Back in April 2024, remember, they had that weight and balance software failure.
Right, another fleet grounding.
Exactly. And then, of course, you go back to January 2024, that door plug incident mid-flight.
Which wasn't cyber, but still points to system issues.
Precisely. Systemic vulnerabilities. And add to that, there is a pretty significant cyber incident at SeaTac, Seattle-Tacoma International Airport, in August 2024.
That's Alaska's main hub.
Their main hub, yeah. And that breach, which they blamed on a foreign adversary, caused temporary airport shutdowns, flight delays, baggage system failures. So, yeah, even when they call a specific event a hardware glitch, the whole environment it's happening in is just buzzing with cyber risk.
That context, it makes it feel even more unsettling. Because even if this Alaska incident wasn't a cyber attack, federal agencies have been ringing some pretty loud alarm bells lately, haven't they?
Oh, absolutely.
What's this FBI warning about? And who is this Salt Typhoon group they keep bringing up?
They have definitely been sounding the alarm. Just weeks before this Alaska grounding, actually, on June 27th, 2025, the FBI issued what was called a chilling warning.
Chilling, okay.
Yeah, stating very clearly that America's airlines are under active cyber threat. And the name that keeps popping up in these warnings is Salt Typhoon.
Salt Typhoon.
They're identified as a Chinese state-sponsored threat actor, directly linked, reportedly, to the Ministry of State Security.
Okay, and what do they do? What are their tactics?
Their MO is basically stealth and persistence. They try to get long-term access, fly under the radar, inside critical infrastructure networks, and basically get set up for potential future sabotage.
And this isn't just theoretical, right? They have a track record.
Oh, absolutely not theoretical. They've had some really concerning successful infiltrations already. In 2024, Salt Typhoon apparently got into 9 major American telecom providers.
9?
9. And maybe even more alarming, they managed to breach a U.S. Army National Guard unit and stay there for nearly a year.
A whole year?
Yeah, March to December 2024, quietly stealing sensitive data, network diagrams, that kind of thing.
And the Department of Homeland Security's reaction to that military breach was pretty stark, wasn't it?
It really was eye-opening. They essentially told all U.S. military units they have to operate now under the assumption that their networks are already compromised.
Assume compromise. That's huge.
It is, and DHS specifically highlighted that the line between military and civilian infrastructure is, quote, thinner than ever.
So what does that really mean, that thinner line? For us, for everyday life, it's not just about military secrets anymore, is it?
No, it's much, much broader. It means that digital battlefield, it now extends directly into the systems we rely on every single day. Flying from A to B, our power grids, even just basic communications.
Right.
It's a fundamental shift, really, in thinking about national security, recognizing that hitting civilian infrastructure, especially something critical like aviation, could be just as destabilizing as, a traditional military attack.
It's about disruption. Chaos, not just theft.
Exactly, potential disruption on a national scale.
Which brings up a big question. Why is aviation, it's so obviously critical to the economy, to our lives. Why is it still considered a soft target for these kinds of sophisticated attacks?
Well, there are several factors that kind of contribute to that vulnerability. First, obviously, human lives are directly on the line every single flight, and our economy leans heavily on air travel, passengers, and cargo. But despite that, reports suggest many airlines operate with cybersecurity teams that are just too small for the threat level.
Under-resourced.
Yeah, often dealing with older, outdated infrastructure and maybe lacking good real-time visibility into what's happening on their networks. And unlike, say, finance or defense, there isn't really a single unified federal cybersecurity standard for airlines.
Interesting. So it's patchwork.
It can be, especially when you think about all the different vendors, third-party software, the legacy systems still running critical functions. It creates gaps.
And it sounds like the government support, the federal help for, beefing up defenses isn't exactly pouring in either.
That's another key piece. There's been talk of diminishing federal support, specifically recent cuts mentioned at CISA, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency,
Right.
Which means fewer resources maybe to help out or step in. And that basically puts more of the burden back onto the private airlines themselves.
Who might not have the cash or the tools.
Exactly. They might lack the specialized tools or, frankly, the funding to really keep up with state-sponsored attackers. Some sources are pushing for solutions like formally designating airlines as critical infrastructure.
What would that do?
Well, that designation often triggers stricter requirements and potentially more investment in cybersecurity, and also adopting comprehensive frameworks, something like the CMMC, the Cybersecurity Maturity Model certification, across the whole aviation system, not just the airlines, but suppliers too.
So recognizing the private sector is now on the front lines.
Essentially, yes. A front line of national defense, but in the digital world.
Okay, so let's bring this back to the passenger. What does all this mean for you, the traveler? When your flight goes sideways, whether it's hardware, cyber, or just plain bad weather, what are your rights? It sounds like it really hinges on the why, right?
Absolutely. That distinction between controllable and uncontrollable cancellations is crucial for knowing what you're entitled to.
Okay, break that down for us. What's controllable?
So, controllable cancellations are things the airline is considered responsible for. Think crew scheduling problems, mechanical issues, maybe even that hardware failure like Alaska had.
Got it.
For those, the airlines usually have specific commitments. They'll typically rebook you at no extra cost, sometimes even on a partner airline if they have to.
Okay.
You also usually have the option to reschedule for a different day, and they should waive the change fees. Or, and this is a big one, you have a legal right to a full refund if you decide not to travel.
Not just a voucher.
No, you don't have to accept a travel credit if the cancellation is controllable and you choose not to go. You're entitled to your money back, period.
Good to know.
Okay.
What else for controllable?
If the delay is significant, like over 3 hours, you should get meal vouchers. And if it's an overnight cancellation, they generally promise complimentary hotel and ground transportation.
And if they don't provide it?
Keep your receipts. You should be reimbursed if they can't arrange it directly. Plus, for controllable issues, Alaska specifically offers a little extra bonus, like a $50 future flight discount or 2,000 mileage plan miles.
Okay, that's pretty comprehensive for things they control. But what about the uncontrollable stuff? Massive storms, air traffic control meltdowns, maybe a big security threat. Are the rights the same?
Generally, no. For those uncontrollable reasons, passengers usually don't have the same rights to things like meal vouchers or hotel accommodations from the airline. It's kind of seen as outside their direct responsibility.
Right, makes sense.
However, there's a really important update here. A Department of Transportation, or DOT, regulation that kicked in October 2024.
Okay.
It now legally requires airlines to give you a refund if your flight is canceled for an uncontrollable reason if you choose not to continue your trip.
So even for weather, if you decide not to go because of the cancellation, you get your money back.
Exactly. You might not get the hotel room paid for, but you absolutely get your fare refunded if you opt out.
And the Department of Transportation, the DOT, they play a big role here, kind of like the referee. How can travelers use the DOT?
That's a good way to put it. While the DOT doesn't mandate specific customer service levels for everything, beyond that refund rule we just mentioned, it does hold airlines accountable for the promises they themselves make in their customer service plans.
So they enforce the airline's own policies.
Precisely. The DOT even has this online tool, the Airline Cancellation and Delay Dashboard. It's super useful.
Okay.
It clearly lays out what each major airline commits to providing for different types of delays and cancellations. You can check it right there.
And if the airline doesn't follow through on their own promise?
Then you should absolutely file a complaint with the DOT. That's how you ensure you get what you're owed based on what the airline itself has stated.
Gotcha.
We even saw this anecdote in the sources, a Reddit user talking about being, quote, escorted off a flight that I paid for and made it to on time because of a system error. Yeah, the airline system apparently just automatically rebooked them onto something else without telling them or asking.
So what happens then?
Well, in a situation like that, the DOT rules on involuntary denied boarding might come into play, and that could potentially mean the passenger is owed 4 times the value of their fare.
4 times?
Yeah.
That's way more than the coupon they probably offered.
Way more than the $100 coupon and meal vouchers they apparently offered initially, yeah. The key nuance is, if you have a confirmed reservation, you checked in on time, got to the gate on time, and they actually let you board. They generally can't just kick you off unless it's for safety or security.
So knowing the rules, knowing your rights, knowing the airline's specific promises, it really matters.
It makes a huge difference in those really frustrating moments, absolutely.
Okay, stepping back a bit. This whole situation, from the IT glitches like Alaska's to these bigger cyber threats, it really seems to point towards a larger tension, almost an economic balancing act in the airline industry. This trade-off between efficiency and resilience. We saw a massive example of this with the Southwest Airlines meltdown back in December 2022, right?
That's a perfect parallel. Yeah, Southwest. Thousands and thousands of cancellations. The trigger was a big snowstorm, sure, but the reason it got so bad was largely down to their, well, let's say vintage software system.
Right.
And also their unique point-to-point flight model. In normal times, that model is super efficient. It meant shorter flights, fuel savings, lower costs.
Which meant cheaper tickets and happy customers, usually.
Exactly. High customer satisfaction.
Right.
But that same highly optimized, efficient system just wasn't built to handle a massive shock like that storm. It lacked resilience.
So it's like that classic black swan event idea. Something unpredictable happens and the system optimized only for smooth sailing just breaks.
Precisely. Companies, not just airlines, often prioritize that immediate measurable efficiency, quarterly profits, on-time stacks over investing in what economists sometimes call slack or resiliency.
Slack meaning extra capacity, backup systems.
Yeah, things like redundant IT systems, maybe larger IT security teams, even flight routing that's slightly less fuel efficient but easier to recover when disruptions happen. It's a sort of bias towards what is measurable, especially in really competitive markets.
Because investing in resilience looks like inefficient spending on the books until you actually need it.
Exactly. It's hard to justify spending big bucks on something that might happen or something you can't easily point to in the next earnings call. It really highlights this core economic paradox. The drive for efficiency, which is good in normal times, can directly undermine resilience.
And when that crisis hits, boom, the hidden costs of prioritizing only efficiency become painfully obvious.
They sure do. The true costs are revealed.
And some of the analysis we looked at even suggests that certain government regulations might, maybe unintentionally, play into this dynamic by potentially limiting the market pressures that could push airlines towards being more resilient.
That's a provocative argument raised in the sources, yeah. The idea is that existing laws, like the old Civil Aeronautics Act of 1938, which mandates 75% U.S. ownership for domestic airlines, that this might inadvertently limit foreign competition. And the thinking goes, if you limit competition, you might also reduce the incentive for airlines to make those big, maybe costly investments in deep resilience.
Because competitors can't just easily swoop in and grab your customers if you have a major meltdown.
That's the argument. If the market isn't fully open, the pressure to innovate purely for long-term robustness, which might look like an upfront inefficiency, perhaps isn't as intense as it could be.
Interesting.
The analysis basically suggests that while regulations are necessary, they probably won't ever be the main driver for huge companies to innovate or really think hard long-term about the trade-offs between squeezing out costs and building in more resilience. It leans towards letting market forces, maybe stronger competition, drive those investments.
So wrapping this up, we've journeyed through the digital fragility of modern air travel, from hardware failures grounding fleets to these really serious cyber threats, making airlines almost a kind of front line of national defense.
A digital front line, yeah.
We've stressed how crucial it is for you, the passenger, to understand your rights when things go wrong, knowing that difference between what an airline controls and what it doesn't.
That controllable versus uncontrollable piece is key.
And woven through it all is that fundamental tension. The industry's constant push for efficiency, clashing with the critical need for resilience and what that means systemically for the economy and for your actual travel plans. So here's a final thought to chew on. As technology keeps reshaping everything, including how we fly, where does the responsibility really lie? Is it more on the private companies, the airlines themselves, or should there be stronger governmental oversight to ensure not just efficiency, but that fundamental security and resilience our economy and, frankly, our safety depend on?
It's a huge question.
And what role do you, as a consumer, as a citizen, play in holding these complex systems accountable? This deep dive, hopefully, reminds us that being informed isn't just about knowing facts. It's about understanding these powerful forces at play and figuring out how best to navigate them.